Long jump, Mike Powell. So unlucky in the previous round to be denied a huge jump by a marginal no jump. Now what's this one going to be? Well, it looks like 9 meters. What's flag's going to be raised? Is he getting the red flag or the white flag this time? Fantastic performance here by Powell. And he's being beaten. It's 8.95. Bob Beeman's world record has been smashed by Mike Powell.
It was a leap for the ages and into the record books. A world record that still stands today, some 30 years later. Mike Powell outdueled his USA track and field rival, Carl Lewis, soaring 29 feet, 4 1/2 inches, or 8.95 meters, winning a long jump world title in Tokyo, Japan in August 1991. His miraculous mark broke Bob Beeman's long-standing long jump world record of 23 years from the 1968 Mexico City Summer Olympics. Powell, a 2-time world champion and 2-time Olympic silver medalist, preceded all of his outstanding accomplishments with a gold medal performance at the Zagreb 1987 Summer Universiade. Just 23 and having recently finished his studies at UCLA, it was a victory and valuable experience that launched Powell's career into the air and toward international long jump stardom. Hello and welcome to another edition of the FISU Legends interview series. I'm Brian Pinelli. And joining me now from his home outside Los Angeles, California, is the long jump world record holder and 1987 Summer Universiade champion, Mike Powell. Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
I'm good, Brian. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Thanks for taking the time. 30 years to the month of your long jump world record. And don't comment just yet because we'll get to it. But I'm excited to talk about this. So thanks a lot for your time.
No problem.
We're just about a week and a half since the conclusion of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. We should mention the same site where you broke your world record 30 years ago. Not easy, credit to Tokyo 2020, credit to the IOC. Our challenging times continue, but they pulled it off. Hopefully some inspiration to the world's athletes, to fans, to everyone involved. I guess first off, Mike, your impressions on the Summer Games in Tokyo and actually a very dramatic long jump final, won for the first time in Olympic history by a Greek athlete.
Yeah, well, the games overall, Japan, I knew that the way Japan works, they were going to put on a great games. They're a very meticulous society. And, haven't had broken the world record there. I've been there many times. So I knew they do a good job. So in spite, of the coronavirus and the limitations, they still were able to put on, a great games, and it was still great competitions minus the fans. So interesting competition, very interesting because it was definitely Echeverria's to win. And, I was doing some commentary on the event with the World Athletics.
Yeah. And
the main thing that I kept saying was that there's only 2 guys that were really running down the runway. The big difference that from when I was competing and what they're doing now is that they don't emphasize the speed as much. And, for me, competing against Carl Lewis and Larry Meyer, Carl's 9, world record holder, and Larry Meyer, 20 flat sprinter. So goal was to get down there as fast as possible and be aggressive on the runway.
But Tentaglow of Greece, he nailed it on his 6th and final jump. And Mike, doing a little bit of my long jump analysis, he was 2 centimeters from a foul. So, 12 athletes, 6 jumps each, or 3 to some. He absolutely nailed this final jump. Credit to him.
Yeah, definitely. I was, sometimes it's hard for me to get excited about the long jump when they're only jumping 830s, 840s to win. And most of that is just jealousy because I jumped 849 and 864 and got 2 silver medals. So it's kind of tough for me. But Tentaglow definitely, he pulled together. He had jumped 860 earlier this year. So I knew it wasn't like a superhuman feat for him to jump that far.
Yeah.
And on that last jump, his adrenaline took him, and fortunately for him, it wasn't a foul, and he was able to pull out a jump in his last jump, and now he's going to be the gold medalist forever. And that's an amazing thing for him and for Greece. He's still young also, so we'll see where he goes with that, but I'm proud of him. I mean, he's a gold medalist now, and he did it in a way that a champion should.
Absolutely. And speaking of clutch jumps in Tokyo, Mike, I think you can relate to the young Greek. Unbelievable, hard to believe. 30 years this August. Your duel against Carl Lewis at the 1991 World Championships, not in the same stadium, but the same site. And on your fifth jump, you uncorked the 29 feet 4 1/2 inch, passing Carl. And, 60,000 people in that stadium. We all are, those of us who are old enough, remember it. But, looking back, Mike, 30 years, what strikes you most about that competition, that epic battle against your USA track and field friend, Carl?
Well, Carl, I believe Carl is the best track and field athlete in history, even beyond Bolt, because he long jumped too, and he was always, whenever he ran the relay anchor, he was going to bring it home for gold too. So, but he was really tough to compete against. You see, it took me to break an unbreakable world record just to beat him. And even then, when I broke the record, I fully expected him to come back and break the record again. Yeah. So it just shows how great he was, but I went into the competition expecting to break the world record because I knew that I was going to have to do that in order to beat Carl. And so it was awesome for me because everything came together at once. Defeating Carl, breaking the world record, and win a world championship title on one jump, and really kind of making my introduction to the world, So it was an amazing thing for me. And I guess the thing I'm most proud of is that on Carl's fourth jump, when he jumped beyond the old world record, but was wind dated, he went 891, 29 2 3/4. That would have broken most people. Yeah. They would have thought, oh man, that's the furthest jump in history. And I remember when he did that, I stood up and I went over I went to go talk to my coach, and all the photographers and stuff were chasing after Carl. And I went over to this side of the stadium to talk to my coach. And for some reason, it just got really quiet in that side of the stadium. And I looked at my coach, I said, that's not going to win it. And everybody was like, ooh. And I turned around like, and my adrenaline was so high. I knew it was going to be a record before I stepped onto the runway. My visualization was completely there. I was completely charged. I was even angry, when Carl and I are cool now, but I hated him when I competed against him because he was so great. Yeah. I demonized him because I was competing against a living legend. So I had to pull everything out to beat him.
Did you know right away when you hit the sand?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I knew when I started running because I had fouled one that was 29 feet and I wasn't quite on. So when I started running, I felt that if it was going to be fair, it was going to be a world record. But when I was in the air, I knew it was big. But as soon as I hit the sand, besides Kathy Freeman win the gold medal in 2000, that was the loudest I've ever heard a stadium. Mm-hmm. It was so loud. They just like, whoa! Everybody knew, and I just heard people I heard people saying, "World record!" I just heard it, and then I looked. I've been watching the measurements, so you could tell how far it was, and so I knew that I went past Carl's, and the first thing I did was look over at the wind gauge, and the wind gauge was 0.3 as opposed to 2.9, and I knew, okay, it's a record. Just how far is it? And my thoughts was, is it going to be 9? That's all I was looking for. Is that 9 going to come up? And then it went 8, 9, 5. I'm like, yeah! So, and the funny thing is, right before Carl's last jump, I told Larry Myers was sitting there. I said, Larry, I got to see it just in case Carl gets my record right now. I am the world record holder.
For at least a few minutes, at least.
At least for right now.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I mean, track and field, you know, they used to have a little bit of a scandalous past. Some things would happen, you know. It's like when the Evangelisti in 1987, when they changed the mark and stuff. So to me, it wasn't a win until it was a win.
Sure, until it's in the books.
Exactly. So when it came up, I was like, oh my gosh. Then I realized, okay, I did it. You know, I beat Carl. I broke the world record. I was a world champion. And to me, it was just kind of like a summation of my whole life of being the underdog, working hard, being able to achieve anything that you want to achieve if you work hard enough. And I worked my butt off. Yeah. I trained so hard to get that. So to be able to come through like that was just not, it was not only a testament to what I did, but just to anybody who believes in accomplishing a big dream. And that's what it was really about for me.
Who's got another jump to come, and Mike Powell now, the world record holder in the long jump.
This is phenomenal. This is the greatest long jump competition ever staged. Unbelievable. Lewis 891 goes past the Beeman mark, albeit illegally, and Powell tops it. The crowd are stunned.
Let's shift gears a little bit. I know everyone, of course, naturally is curious about the world record, and deservedly so for you. But 1987, the Zagreb Summer Universiade back in Yugoslavia back then. You're a student athlete. I know you had just finished studies at UCLA, and you won a Universiade gold medal jumping 8.19 meters. What was this experience like for your career? You know, not just the competition, but the entire Universiade experience, because I don't know, maybe you hadn't had too much international multi-sport competition experience at that point.
Right. Well, it was a huge turning point in my career. My first summer in Europe, I went over in 1985, and I was getting my butt kicked every meet, you know. And I wasn't even jumping 8 meters, you know, and I was just like thinking, man, I don't know, I'm cut out for this. This is tough. And then I'm walking there, and there's a guy who was involved with UCLA athletics, and he was Bruce Tennant. And Bruce is like, he called me, said, Mike, he said, when were you last in school? I said, I just finished like a couple months ago. He said, you want to go to the Royal University Games in Yugoslavia? I'm like, yeah, cool. So, you know, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to Europe, you know, and so I'm like, it just was a last minute thing. And then, you know, I ended up winning the competition, and, you know, that was a world title, and it was an awesome experience for me being there, competing. You know, when you go on those kind of trips like that, you make lifelong friends. So a lot of my friends that I'm track guys, I'm still friends with today, were on that trip, and a lot of great soon-to-be athletes were on that trip, like Gwen Torrance was on that trip with me also, you know, and then other athletes from other countries, Colin Jackson and John Ridgen from Great Britain, some other athletes too. So it was great for me.
I want to know, just if you can, a little bit more about your Summer Universiade experience off the track. You know, did you get to some other events? Did you meet some athletes from other sports? And, you know, Universiades always are you know, tied in with different educational activities, programs. You know, I know you're busy, you're focused on winning an event, but what was the big picture like for you in Zagreb?
But you know, it was kind of weird, you know, that was when, you know, the old Soviet system was still intact. So we weren't really allowed to go really kind of off the beaten path. We got to look around a little bit, but I remember one time I was walking, and they said, okay, stay on these main roads. And I'm like, okay. So I started to veer off this road, and some guy jumped out of the bush with a machine gun. I was like, oh my gosh. So I had to get back on the road. So we spent most of our time in the village. Yeah. And we hung with the basketball team. A lot of those guys end up going to the pros and stuff like that. Mitch Richmond, guys like that. You know, so it was a good experience. Like I said, I got a chance to see a basketball game, but just like in the Olympics, the track is last most of the time.
Right.
And the long were in the last events. Yeah. So I didn't really get a chance to go around DuPont and stuff because I was resting, you know. So, so for me, the greatest experience really was just being in the village and the competition itself, and then just the realization that I was a world champion, and then just the fact that it was just kind of like an afterthought for me, ended up being really the catalyst, for me to making it internationally. So it always was a great experience. And
what would you say it was a positive stepping stone to Seoul 1988, where you won your first Olympic silver medal, of course, to Carl's gold, but nevertheless, how would you say the Universiade prepared you for the Olympic Games in Seoul 1988?
Well, it boosted my confidence, a lot, because I was the best in the world. And although it was the university games, but still there were a lot of athletes there who were older anyway. So it was a big win for me and internationally. So it was that whole thing, the whole stepping stone, winning that, then going on to win meets in the summer circuit, and then coming back the next year, and then adding my coach, Randy Huntington, and Willie Banks as my training partner to gear up for 1988. So, but winning the World University Games, had I not gone, who knows? I may not have ever been the world record holder, because I wouldn't have gone to compete in Europe that summer. And then all my eggs would have been in one basket for the next year. And I just so happened at that very moment when I was signing up for the World University Games, Willie Banks had walked past me, and I asked him if I could be his training partner.
Yeah.
And he said, why should I let you be my training partner? I said, because I want to know what world record holders do. Yeah. Whatever you do, that's what I'm going to do. If you say hop to practice on one leg, I'm hopping to practice on one leg. So all that stuff happened around the World University Games. So it's such an important, vital part of my career, so I always will cherish it, always.
Thanks for taking the time to share some wonderful, insightful stories, not just about that amazing leap 30 years ago, but also about your Summer Universiade experience in Zagreb. We're all happy that you made it to the University Games.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Best of luck, Mike. And thank you for joining us on this edition of the FISU University Legends Interview Series, where we catch up with past Universiade champions and competitors to find out where they are, what they're doing, and how they've been inspired by the University Games. Have a great day, everybody.